off with. So when you take a look at this illustration here, I'm just going to kind of find a center point for this and give myself a little bit of a rectangular box to draw this in, just to start off, just to get the idea. And that gives me that beginning. Now again, it doesn't matter what pencil I use. I have number 2. I have a couple mechanical pencils, 4B, HB. We'll get started in there. And once you get this part, is you're trying to analyze what's happening. Well, this thing tapers, and you guys actually have the mouse, and it's handheld device, and usually they actually take clay when they do a model, and for an ergonomic piece like this, the person's hands are actually wrapped all around it, but you're kind of arching this thing, so it doesn't really have any help describing what's in front of this and what's in the side. Aside from finding the centers, I can still use this center crossing of the diagonal to get the front center of this, and that's where that button kind of divides itself, goes across the middle, and then comes down to the side. So here I have this edge taping back, and still drawing it rectangular first, and then just going ahead and curving this to build that piece over. Okay. Same with this mouse. This is a depression in there, but it's based off of an elliptical shape up on top, and then it tapers down, and then you have a little wheel that's inside there, so you're finding that geometry in there. Can't really see where the cable goes. I'm just going to simply pull it out of there quite easily. And now if you did anything like a cross contour, contour is the outside edge, cross contour is overlapping this, so it's kind of helping with the hatch line. Just like the center piece that separates the two buttons, you can taper this around and wrap that right around there. And this one's coming up forward. And again, the photograph kind of helps you just kind of simplify it, even if you're looking right at it. Okay, and like I said, a cross hatch line would come through and maybe help define some of the form. You don't see these lines on it, but it's almost like a wireframe, and builds it up. And once you get that part, the reflections and the surface kind of take precedent over it, kind of comes in front of it, goes across, and then I have a solid black part that the mouse is on. But really there's not a straight line in the whole thing. The kind of the logo they have over the top of it, you're stretching a baseline and a height line over there to kind of get that lettering in there. Looping this part here, it's got a little bit of a starburst like so. And Logitech. So I'm just going to put the L in there to start off. I'm going to put the rest in as I go through it. So that's the beginning. The second part would be then trying to figure out the shading or the tones. So as you're doing that, kind of building up that section, I have a little bit of a softer lead in here. I can blend right into that and just start to illustrate or render that piece in there. So take a look at those photos, see which one you'd like to illustrate just as far as an object coming in. And the photograph, again, you have the object in front of you. Sometimes the photograph will lose some of the detail, and that's when you have to emphasize that part of the drawing. Okay. So again, taking this part, starting to shade in. The photograph sometimes is a little misleading, but there it is right there. Here's this little depression for the buttons. I'm just going to emphasize that. And bring this down here. So go ahead and give this a try. Again, turn your, if it's necessary, turn your paper to get a better location at it. And if it gets too dark, then just go ahead and find the edges that you need. And then also keep in mind, look for the cast shadow. And the cable. Now the cable you can add to that, just keep things parallel with whatever line that comes in. It is going to be dark. And again, the highlights that you can see, you can always put those back in with an eraser. I'll show that in a second. Just build that part up. So in this case, it has a little bit of a cast shadow kind of coming off of this part. As I took it in here, it has a number of lighting up at the top. And again, this wheel is a little darker. Yes, sir. Builds that part in. And when you get into something like the logo, you can delineate. I'm just using a finer point. Console. And I'm just going to turn it a little bit so I can see what I'm doing. Then I can always go in with the highlight, just with an eraser. Put that in there like so.